Yungeen Ace just broke down in court after new footage tied him directly to the crime scene, and honestly, ain't nobody in the street surprised people have been saying he was involved since day one. I'm
the one that smacked Foolio that night when he got dropped at his birthday celebration, bro. Ace had that money on his head, you know, Ace had to put that 10K up, told me to slide.
Foolio's murder Fio's killers aren't just unremorseful, they're making a mockery of his death. Not long ago, one of them, Isaiah Chance, was caught on camera in court casually booping his head to "Who I Smoke," the viral Yungeen Ace diss track that taunts Foolio and his entire crew. That moment was already disturbing enough, but what happened recently in court crossed into something far darker. Before we unpack the twisted courtroom behavior and heartless message they just delivered, we need to rewind to the night that sealed FIO's fate. June 23, 2024. FIO was supposed to be celebrating. The 26-year-old rapper had planned to mark his birthday in Tampa, Florida, far from the violent streets of Jacksonville that had claimed so many of his friends and family members. He had achieved something that most young men from his neighborhood never would: legitimate success in the music industry, millions of streams, and the financial means to enjoy life beyond the projects. But the past has a way of catching up, and the deadly feud that had defined his career was about to claim its most high-profile victim. However, what transpired in the early morning hours of June 24th was not something he had expected. While celebrating his birthday, Foolio, aka Charles Jones, made several posts on his social media revealing his location several times throughout that night. This seemingly innocent act of sharing his celebration with fans would prove to be a fatal mistake, providing his enemies with real-time intelligence about
Jones was in town celebrating his birthday and posted on his social media his locations several times throughout that night. Surveillance video was critical in this investigation, as suspects were seen on video following Jones from location to location.
The killers had come prepared. 5 suspects would eventually be arrested in connection with the murder. Isaiah Chance, Elisa Andrews, Sean Geithright, David Murphy, and Richard Murphy are all accused of playing a role in Jones' death. But this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. The evidence would later reveal a level of premeditation that shocked even experienced homicide detectives. An investigation revealed further chilling details, such as the suspects planning the killers used their mother's car, had an Airbnb 1 mile from the murder scene, and used their own cell phones, describing the case as a layup for prosecutors. Due to the evidence, the level of planning and coordination among the 5 defendants was nothing short of chilling. It was clear they came to Tampa with one purpose: to kill, yet the reckless, almost amateur-ish sloppiness of their operational security not only made the prosecution's job far easier, but also exposed something even more disturbing. These suspects were either so intoxicated by bloodlust or so crazy confident in their ability to escape justice that they didn't bother to hide the trail of evidence they left behind. As the night went on, the hunters moved with cold, steady focus like they had all the time in the world. It just goes to show how far these dudes were willing to go to make sure FIO didn't make it out alive. They weren't about to just sit back and hope for a shot. Nah, they were on his trail, following him from spot to spot, watching how he moved, checking his security, and waiting for that one slip up, that perfect moment to hit. That moment came at 4:15 in the morning. Jones began to head to a hotel on McKinley. One of the suspect vehicles was seen following the victim. However, instead of following them into a parking lot, they staged across the street. The tactical positioning revealed military-style planning. They didn't rush in recklessly, but instead took strategic positions that would maximize their advantage and minimize their exposure. What happened next was captured on surveillance cameras, providing prosecutors with footage so clear and damning that it essentially turned the courtroom into a movie theater screening the final moments of a young man's life.
3 shooters exit a vehicle and walked in the direction of the hotel. They murdered Jones with a handgun and 2 rifles. This barrage of gunfire also struck 3 additional victims who miraculously survived this incident.
The video evidence is so damning that law enforcement officials couldn't hide their disgust when presenting it to the media. He's the right front passenger in that vehicle. It's clear from that video what they were set out to do and what they had planned to do. The investigation would later reveal that the 3 armed shooters were Sean Geithright, Rashard Murphy, and David Murphy. But what makes this case particularly chilling isn't just the cold-blooded nature of the execution. It's what happened immediately afterward, while FIO lay dying in a Tampa hotel parking lot, while his friends fought for their lives, while his mother received the phone call that Every parent dreads one of his killers was already celebrating the message that would later become central to the prosecution's case was sent from Sean Gathite's phone but attributed to Rashad Murphy, one of the alleged shooters. The text sent just hours after the murder read, "I'm coming home, my thirst is quenched, pop a bottle of Don Julio today." The callousness of this message cannot be overstated. The phrase "thirst is quenched" is interpreted as indicating satisfaction or fulfillment of a motive, likely revenge, following Foolio's death. The reference to Don Julio is seen as a disrespectful nod to Foolio's stage name, Julio Foolio, adding a layer of callousness to the message. The investigation that followed would reveal the depth of the conspiracy and the gang connections that motivated the killing. Detectives believe that the ATK and the 12,200 worked together to target Jones as part of an ongoing feud in Jacksonville. This wasn't just a Jacksonville problem that had traveled to Tampa. It was a coordinated effort by multiple criminal organizations to eliminate what they saw as a threat. All 5 suspects face first-degree murder charges, with the state seeking the death penalty for the 4 male suspects, while Andrews, who was pregnant at the time of her arrest, revealed in court in September 2024, is not subject to capital punishment. The decision to seek the ultimate penalty reflects not just the heinous nature of the crime, but the calculated way in which it was carried out. The arrest of the suspects revealed just how sloppy their planning had been despite their tactical execution of the murder itself. The evidence collected by investigators painted a picture of individuals who were simultaneously sophisticated enough to plan and execute a complex murder, yet foolish enough to leave a digital trail that would inevitably lead to their capture. Detectives used footage from the scene, license plate readers, and phone logs to identify 2 vehicles and link them back to the suspects, but perhaps the most revealing piece of evidence was the attitude displayed by the suspects after their arrest. Alicia Andrews told police she let the other suspects use her phone to communicate, denying knowledge of their plan to kill Foolio. This claim of ignorance seems almost insulting given the level of coordination required to track someone across multiple locations in an unfamiliar city and then execute them with military precision. The impact of Foolio's death extended far beyond the immediate tragedy of a young life cut short. Law enforcement officials used the moment to send a clear message to anyone who might consider similar acts of violence.
I want to send a clear message to anyone that the city of Tampa is not where you want to come to settle a dispute. You will be charged, you will be arrested, and you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent possible.
But this wasn't just a senseless act of violence. It was the latest chapter in a long and bloody saga that had been festering beneath the surface for years. The investigation and courtroom drama, the wheels of justice began turning slowly but deliberately in the aftermath of Julio Foolio's murder. And what emerged in the courtroom proceedings would shock even those familiar with the brutal realities of gang violence. The suspects who had planned and executed such a calculated killing would soon find themselves facing the ultimate penalty under Florida law, but their behavior in court would reveal a level of arrogance and callousness that defied comprehension. The initial court appearances were procedural affairs, but they set the tone for what would become a complex legal battle involving multiple defendants, each with their own attorneys and their own strategies for avoiding the death penalty. That the state was aggressively pursuing. The arraignment proceedings revealed the methodical approach that prosecutors would take in building their case. All 5 of these defendants are facing life in the Florida State Prison, even the ones who didn't pull the trigger in Florida. If you participate in the planning of a murder, you can be held accountable for the person's death. And that is what we intend to do here. This wasn't just about the 3 individuals who physically pulled the triggers. It was about dismantling the entire conspiracy that had made FIO's murder possible. The evidence that prosecutors began presenting painted a picture of defendants who were not only unrepentant, but seemed to view their actions as something to be celebrated rather than crimes deserving of punishment. The chilling message in question is a text message sent from one of the defendants' phones shortly after FIO's murder. According to court documents, specifically motions to deny bail for the defendants. The message that would become central to the prosecution's case demonstrated a level of callousness that prosecutors argued warranted the death penalty. This message was sent from Sean Gathite's phone, but attributed to Rashad Murphy, one of the alleged shooters. The timing of the message, just hours after taking a human life, revealed something deeply disturbing about the mindset of the killers. They weren't conflicted or remorseful. They were triumphant. The public reaction to the message was swift and intense. An ex post by its CRIES DG TL on August 7, 2024 further publicized the message, stating, One of Foolio's murder suspects, Rashad Murphy, aka Ghost, sent out a text message to someone hours after FIO was killed. "I'm coming home, my thirst is quenched, pop a bottle of Don Julio today." The post garnered over 1.6 million views, demonstrating the public's fascination and horror at such blatant disregard for human life. As the legal proceedings continued, the behavior of the defendants revealed a pattern of arrogance and defiance that would characterize their approach to the justice system. Rashad Murphy, one of the alleged shooters, has been particularly active in court. On January 14, 2025, he wrote an emotional letter to the judge emphasizing his long-term relationship with his fiancée since age 13 and his involvement in their 4 children's lives. Seemingly as part of his defense, this attempt at humanization stood in stark contrast to the callous message he had allegedly sent after committing murder. The letter represented a calculated attempt to portray himself as a family man and devoted father, while conveniently ignoring the fact that he had allegedly helped murder someone else's son, brother, and cousin. But Murphy's courtroom antics were far from over. On January 29, 2025, Murphy defied his attorney Brian Gonzalez by requesting to represent himself and demanding a speedy trial, which could force a trial within 5 days. This decision prompted warnings from the court about the dangers of self-representation in a death penalty case, but Murphy seemed undeterred by the potential consequences. The judge warned of the dangers of self-representation in a death penalty case, with a hearing scheduled for February 4, 2025 to determine his mental state. The question of Murphy's competency to represent himself raised serious concerns about whether his decision was driven by legal strategy or by the same reckless disregard for consequences that had led to the murder in the first place. The prosecution's case was strengthened by the overwhelming evidence they had gathered, but they also had to deal with the complex dynamics of prosecuting multiple defendants with varying levels of culpability. Bond hearings have been a focal point, with all 5 suspects facing denials due to the severity of the charges and their perceived danger to the community. One of the most significant hearings involved David Murphy, another alleged shooter. A 5-hour bond hearing for Dean Murphy on January 16, 2025, saw the state announce its intent to seek the death penalty with testimony detailing the gang war and evidence like gang-related songs. The hearing wasn't just about whether Murphy should be granted bail. It was an opportunity for prosecutors to preview their case and demonstrate the level of premeditation involved in the murder. The evidence presented during these hearings revealed the personal motivations that had driven the killers to action. Family involvement was also highlighted in court, with testimony noting that Rashad Murphy's cousin Joe Rod Adams was killed at Rains High School football game on August 24, 2018, an event mentioned in Foolio's songs, which Murphy expressed dislike for adding personal motive to the case. This revelation added another layer to the story. These weren't random killers who had targeted FIO for money or street credibility. They had personal vendettas, family members whose deaths they attributed to the ongoing feud, and they saw FIO's murder as a form of justice rather than cold-blooded killing. The other defendants also appeared in court, though their approaches varied significantly. Other suspects like Shaw Gathright, Isaiah Chance, and Alicia Andrews have also appeared in court, with 3 pleading not guilty on August 28, 2024 in Hillsborough County. The not guilty plea were expected, but they set the stage for trials that would force prosecutors to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, while the defendants fought for their lives. The unique position of Alicia Andrews added another complex element to the case. Andrews, who was pregnant at the time of her arrest, revealed in court in September 2024, is not subject to capital punishment, while she faced the same first-degree murder charges as her co-defendants. The fact that she couldn't receive the death penalty meant that her case would likely be resolved differently than those of the male defendants. As the legal proceedings continued, the prosecution made it clear that they viewed this case as more than just another gang-related murder. State Attorney Susie Lopez emphasized the broader implications of the case during a press conference following the arrest. The human cost of this entire tragedy was never far from the surface, even as the legal machinery ground forward with its procedural requirements and constitutional protections. The investigation revealed further chilling details, such as the suspect's planning and exposed by at Fly on August 7, 2024 noted that the killers used their mother's car, had an Airbnb 1 mile from the murder scene, and used their own cell phones, describing the case as a layup for prosecutors due to the evidence, the casual nature of their preparation, using family vehicles and staying in vacation rentals as if they were planning a weekend.
Everything I love, bro. On the dead homies, bro, I put it on everything, on my soul, on my kids. I'm the one that smacked Foolio that night when he got dropped at his birthday celebration, bro.
Getaway rather than a murder spoke to a generation that had become so desensitized to violence that taking a life required no more planning than going to a concert. The prosecutor's confidence was clear from their public statements to their bold decision to pursue the death penalty for multiple defendants. Whether they'll win the case remains to be seen, but right now things are looking surprisingly favorable for the accused. The birth of a street war. Since Foolio's murder hit the news, one name has surfaced repeatedly: Yungeen Ace. The rivalry between the two rappers had fueled Jacksonville's drill scene for years, leading to violent confrontations and multiple losses. With Foolio's death on his 26th birthday, speculation and suspicion have naturally turned toward Ace. His recent actions, cryptic statements, and suggestive lyrics have only added to the public's questions, leaving many to wonder if Foolio's murder was a targeted hit orchestrated by Ace, or simply the deadly escalation of their long-running feud. Adding fuel to the fire is the viral video of an unidentified man masked in disguise claiming responsibility for Foolio's murder. The masked man, wearing an orange beanie and concealing his face, insisted that he was the one who smacked FIO on his birthday night, carrying out the hit supposedly ordered by Yungeen Ace. In the clip, the man claimed that Ace had paid him $10,000 to kill FIO, stating, "Everything I love, bro, on the dead homies, bro."
Foolio dying, cuz. That's sad, twin. I ain't gonna lie, bro. Y'all boys in the street, y'all didn't leave the streets alone, twin. All condone this like that.
This confession, whether genuine or a ploy to stir controversy, has only intensified suspicion around Yungeen Ace. The confession also seemed to reveal an absence of remorse from the purported killer, who rationalized his actions as part of a transaction. "It is what it is, bro, they don't give about that money, anybody can get it." FIO had it coming to him. The man's apparent allegiance to Ace's crew, ATKC's top killers, further lent an ominous air to his statements, suggesting a strong motive tied to their ongoing feud with FIO's TA gang. Despite these allegations, police have neither confirmed the authenticity of the video nor made any moves to arrest the masked man. This lack of law enforcement action has frustrated some in the public, who wonder if Yungeen Ace, due to his fame and wealth, may be receiving preferential treatment. The claims in the video, although unverified, have ignited an online firestorm that continues to cast doubt on Yungeen Ace's denial of involvement. Yungeen Ace's actions following FIO's death further fueled speculation. Hours after FIO's murder, Ace released a diss track titled "Do It," which many fans interpreted as an indirect claim to involvement in Foolio's killing. The timing of the release and its aggressive lyrics appear to taunt Foolio's death and reinforce the image of Ace as a gangster unafraid to put his enemies down. The lyrics and "Do It" are rife with threats and thinly veiled references to FIO's murder. 7 days a week we run this, we spinning any day this week. I better come up missing, better stay on point, what he better not be out here slipping the line. Seemed to boast about a constant state of war where one slip up could lead to fatal consequences. Ace's repeated threats against an unnamed who is trying and dying seemed to many aimed at Foolio, adding to the chilling effect of the lyrics. Ace reportedly brandished a bottle of Don Julio tequila in the video, a symbolic nod to FIO's rap name. Foolio social media exploded with reactions, with many viewers noting the Don Julio bottle and calling it the disrespectful mockery of Foolio's death. One YouTube user commented, "The Don Julio bottle in the video is diabolical," while another remarked, claiming bodies has to be the dumbest flex in history. This provocative imagery, along with Ace's post-murder silence on the matter, has kept public interest and suspicions alive. While Ace's supporters argue that the song and its timing were coincidental, others believe it was a calculated move to take credit for Foolio's death without directly incriminating himself. With pressure mounting, Yungeen Ace eventually broke his silence addressing the murder and denying any involvement. He took to Instagram Live, claiming that while he and FIO had been bitter rivals, they had recently made amends. Ace stated,